What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here. Jump in the comments, guys. Feel free to ask any questions. But before we even jump into that, I wanted to highlight for you guys that we recently just dropped a new podcast. So the Problems for Profits podcast, if you guys haven't heard me chatting about it, really want to encourage you guys to go check it out. And we've already had Casey Wong on. So Casey Wong is episode 1. Then we've got Mike Rosehart and Adam Martin. So I think those are all names you guys will remember. And as well, if you guys could do me a huge favor, I would absolutely appreciate it if you guys could jump over and give a 5-star rating and ideally a written review to the Problems for Profits podcast. And if you guys could please download every episode on Apple in the next week and a half. That's essentially how this algorithm shit works. I don't make the rules. I just barely understand how they work. So if you guys could jump over, please subscribe in the next week or so. Give us a 5-star rating, download all the episodes, and give us a written review, just like we had Q'd CRA or Alan Grace or Mina G or Ehans or Amol, or those are just consonants. Green Elm, Erica Robbins, I think that's Cole, Janelle, James Bond Canada, the Hungarian Experiment, Rebecca, Hardwood Floor Refinishing 101, and M. Jack Bricks. It's kind of interesting. I realized a lot of people, their Apple account is often like some of the oldest accounts that they never change their name on. So like, it's interesting to see that. James Bond Canada, for example. So anyways, please guys, jump over Problems for Profits podcast, give us a subscribe, check it out, give us a rating. Actually pretty proud of the podcast as well. So absolutely would appreciate it if you guys would go over and show some love. Otherwise, I'm going to hit up a few questions here in the comment section. So hit me up now, and then we're going to bring on Peter, the producer of the Hungarian Experiment. And I think going forward, guys, I'm going to turn this into more of a hangout or interview or something, just because I feel like it kind of gets dry or boring, just me doing stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe once in a while, me goofing around on realtor.ca makes sense, but it just, I don't know, feels a little dry. So let's do some of these questions, and then we'll get to smoking. So, hey, what type of variance may be needed to sell individual units of a multifamily unit? You're probably going to have to condo that building. So figure out whether the zoning allows you to make it into condos. Unless it was purpose built, it's probably going to be an uphill battle. What happens to the equity of the seller when doing a subject to the existing mortgage? Depends upon how you wrote the contract and what the price is. If they're just letting you kind of step in and assume it, then sounds like they had no equity. Hello, Matt. Great content. Asking generally, not considering the current market, how can one get more cash at closing in order to increase his cash-on-cash return? Get more cash at closing. If we're buying or selling. If we're buying, usually like some sort of cash back clause, right? Maybe a renovation credit, something like that. If you're selling it, then potentially you might be able to maximize the sales price if you're willing to take on, say, a vendor take-back mortgage. In an average balanced market, what is the average month of housing inventory? If I understand the question correctly, I don't think that there's a perfect rule of thumb. I've heard a few different numbers thrown about. I've usually talked about, kind of the 4 or 6 to 10 month to a year kind of range as being what I would consider to be balanced. If we're getting above that, I would consider it to be a buyer's market. If we're below that, I'd consider it to be a seller's market. So obviously right now, when we've got like 1 and 2 months worth of inventory, we are very much in a seller's real estate market. Question, is buying a duplex with 2 basement suites with the same as buying a fourplex? Essentially, the duplex will likely be cheaper than a fourplex. So if you're talking about like maybe buying 2 semi-detached and then they both have basement apartments or income suites in the basement, yeah, that probably is going to be cheaper in a lot of neighborhoods. It may not as well. Again, depends upon the details. The one thing I would just take into consideration is make sure that obviously those basement units are legal, that you're allowed to rent them out and all that good stuff. because obviously if they're illegal units, we're not comparing apples to apples. And then if you're going to buy side-by-sides that haven't already had the titles merged, we should probably be careful and make sure you're buying them in different entities' names, or have at least not the exact same entities buy both sides, because there's a very good risk you could have your title merge, and that's going to just be bad. Typically, you like to stick with the 1% rule and 50% expense rule. In today's low interest rate environment, how would you adjust these thresholds? Good question. I don't. But I definitely understand why some people are tempted to do so. I just straight up don't. So we still seek the 1% rule. We still factor in roughly 50% for expenses. The only real asterisk here, and we were doing this before interest rates even got lower in the last year or so, but we will accept closer to a 0.8% rule if the tenant's paying their own utilities, or if it's a large purpose-built apartment building and say they're at least paying their electricity, because usually the cost of heat and water isn't that significant. Hey, Matt, I decided to sell my primary house and going to move in a rental. Bad decision? I mean, it depends what you invest in, right? Are we investing in Bitcoin or cash-producing assets, or are you just throwing it into a random shitcoin, or putting it into a speculative asset? So it's just kind of food for thought there. But yeah. All right, guys, I may do a few other questions in a little bit here, but I'm going to pack a bowl and then smoke my bong, and then we'll bring on Peter, the producer, as well. And we'll take this conversation where it goes. Otherwise, if you guys maybe, I'm not sure how I'm going to organize this, so do it in an orderly fashion, but if you think you would be a particularly interesting guest on a future episode of this, get in contact with me, and I guess convince me on Instagram why you would be an interesting guest, and we'll try and bring on other interesting guests in future episodes. All right. Whenever you're good, Peter, feel free to jump on here. Smoking too.
Yeah, I thought I'd join. Appreciate you having me on tonight, Matt. How's it going?
Good. Do you want to give context just for anyone that maybe doesn't know your role in the YouTube channel, and just kind of backstory here, Peter?
Yeah, for sure. What's going on, everybody? So I'm now going under the alias of Peter, the producer. Have gone under the alias of the Hungarian Experiment for since about 2015. I started up a YouTube channel, and around 2016, I was actually vlogging out in public for one of my first few times, and it was at the East End Summit here in London, Ontario, and you happened to be there, and you were considering starting up your YouTube channel. And I was either like, man, everyone's going to be super aware that like this kid's like vlogging and doing something, which I think they were, but you were the only one who actually like had the guts to actually like talk to me and like actually do something about it. And you tapped me on the shoulder and you were like, yo, is this for YouTube? And I was like, yeah. And you're like, yo, we need to talk about this because I'm considering starting up a YouTube channel. So I think after that event, a day or two later, maybe a week or so later, I can't remember exactly, but we went out to grab some food and we just chatted for a couple hours over a couple beers. So I actually got in there in the time when Matt was actually drinking. And yeah, from there, we just kind of like stayed in contact with each other for a while. And after a little bit, 6 months to a year, we started doing like passion projects. Like I had you on my channel to highlight the unique and interesting things you were doing. I know when I met you with my YouTube channel, The Hungarian Experiment, I was already dissolving a lot of these like limiting beliefs in life, like food, and like I was doing intermittent fasting and experimenting with weightlifting and all these concepts that I think people are very like held back with in life. And when I met you, you had this like interesting perspective about like financial independence and retiring early. And at that point, like that was money and finances was really like holding me back in life. And I remember after like reading Early Retirement Extreme. Like, you told me to get that book, or you gave me that book. I can't remember exactly. I think you gave it to me. But I absorbed that book and I was like, holy shit, like, I need to change a lot about my life and the way I'm doing things. And then again, yeah, that was like 2016, 2017. I actually have a bunch of old pictures pulled up here where we can like reflect over the times. But
I was just like, I was trying to place myself in the locations you were talking about. And I was like, the first time I would have been on Peter's YouTube channel, I was like, oh shit, okay, I can remember like you had that like space that was a balcony probably that was like built out into an office, or I feel like that would have been like one of the first times that like we sat down and like talked like, and maybe it was a different time that I was on your YouTube channel, but it's just interesting to think
I remember going to visit you at one of your properties that was under renovation, and you kind of walked me through the whole thing, and I was like, whoa, this is totally crazy to me that like someone would just buy down like a rundown place and like fix it up and change it and make it better. And like it was like on Adelaide there, and yeah, like I have that whole vlog up on my channel still.
Interesting. That's crazy. Yeah, I forgot
and then
all about that.
We put it down in your kitchen, and we were just kind of like talking to the camera the whole time. And I was like,
oh,
I have
okay,
no idea
yeah.
what this video is gonna do. But
yeah, I remember that.
and yeah, so since then, like, you know, you were like doing London on Fire with Kellen, so I have actually some pictures, and I was like still learning about like cameras and how to use them. And so I was like, I'll come take pictures of you guys at London on Fire. So I actually have some pictures here from that. But kind of fast forward with time, like we started doing more. We created this thing called the Social Lab, where we tried to create like a YouTube incubator here in London, Ontario, where we took people who are really passionate about social media and YouTube and offered them. At first, it was intended to be half price rent, but it actually, like, for the 2 people we brought in, was like free rent. And yeah, that YouTube channel is still actually up and alive if you guys want to go see that stuff. And then with time, like that kind of fell out, and I was supposed to go move up to Ottawa with my girlfriend, and we ended up breaking up. And then this was, I believe, at the beginning of 2018, and I was like night auditing at a hotel here in London, Ontario. And you were like, yo, you should like come like work for me and Jeff, create like a social media agency, and during the time, like while we're starting it up, like make videos for us. So at that time, like I split up with my girlfriend, so I was like living with my mom for like a month or 2, and then I moved downtown, and then from there it was just like all YouTube and creating content. And I would like walk over to your house, and or was it Jeff's place at that time? No, yeah, your place.
Yeah, I was living at Jeff's. Yeah.
And I'd like walk over to you guys, and we'd like shoot videos and content, and we'd like drive down to Windsor and like shoot all these videos and stuff. And yeah, now I like live with you. We've been living with you since 2019. So like Matt's upstairs, I'm in the basement. I'm a basement dweller. I need that cool air, even though I'm wearing a sweater right now. But yeah, we've been living and working and doing projects and just like pushing the boundaries of what it means to be like a normal human being, and experimenting and pushing like YouTube and connecting with people online to the test. And it's just been a crazy journey to go through all this and experience this with you, and again like help bring your message and your perspective on life to the world. And that's just what I find fascinating.
Yeah, to me, just like the origin story is just crazy. Like, because I remember it so crisply. Because, like, again, I think I'd quit my job by then. I was very seriously thinking about a YouTube channel, and like I had probably just discovered like Casey Neistat and like the idea of vlogging. So like that, like all that was like 3 months or less old to me, that entire concept. So just the novel timing of crossing paths, because like again, had I not quit my job, I would have never went to that type of event because I would have been too busy with work. And yeah, had it been before I was thinking about YouTube, you would have just been a crazy person with a camera. I would just be like, what's this guy doing?
Yeah, no, that was like I didn't realize how much impact that going to that event and meeting you would have had on my life. And I'm really like, again, I personally feel like everything happens for a reason. Things like inevitably happen. I believe like you're on this ride and this journey in life, and you can allow it to take you if you're open and accepting to where it's going, and you're listening to, like, you're kind of going with where it's telling you, and you're not holding yourself back because your friends and family and societal norms. And that's how, like, you and I stumbled into each other, and now we're doing like some crazy things, launching podcasts and doing all this stuff. So like, I can even remember something that came to my mind is like us flying out to like Winnipeg and Saskatchewan and visiting all those real estate investors. And now it's like they've been on the channel for a while, and like even having Fraser on the pitch last week. And it was all because like we went out there and flew out there and met him, and the content that we all created together. And it's just it's wild to really take this all in and see where things are at now, and where I eventually see this all going.
And like, I think the crazy thing is, as far as timing goes, I think it would have been, I don't know if you remember the exact timing, but I think it would have been this time a year, 3 years ago, that we would have had that conversation with you, right? Or because it would have been like early 2018. It was before OREC, right?
Yeah, it would have like been right around this time, or probably about a month or so earlier. Because I remember like already knowing I was going to start working with you guys when I was like moving downtown. I believe that was March-ish, April-ish.
Because again, I guess the cool thing is approximately 3 years, let's call it. And now you've got like a business with a team, and like the team's getting pretty big now. Like, how many people are on it?
Yeah, so if we count like full-time people and like a couple part-time people, we have 8 people on the team right now. And I don't even think that's including me, so that would be 9. And yeah, so 3 years ago, it was just like, hey, let me go like record videos with this guy I met at like a community event a year or two prior to that. And then even like looking about like this time last year, like we were 3 months into like, let's do a video every day. And I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. Like, make a video every day for a whole year straight. And we just like, around this time last year, brought on like Janelle and Spence onto the team, and we had Spencer editing for us. And I know probably a lot of people behind the scenes don't know them unless you guys are watching through like the socials and you've been following that for a little bit here. But like, around this time last year, I had like no intentions of starting a business. I thought I was just going to create courses for Hungarian Experiment and just see where everything went. And then in September, we did like flirting with finances like the month prior. And then I was like, I think this is something here. Like, we should make this into a business. And since September, starting out with 4 people, we now have 9. We're, doing well over 6 figures a year, which is absolutely amazing. Like, again, I could never even envision that like 3 years ago I'd be doing something like this. So I'm just, again, going with the journey, going with the flow of life, and taking it where it's taking me. And I believe you're doing the same. And I'm very excited to see where we kind of take all this, because it definitely feels surreal some days, where it's just like you kind of look at like even just talking about this the last 3 years and how far it's come, and there's just 51 people watching us have a conversation right now, and they're all listening to the story and taking it in. And it's just like, it's stupefying sometimes to realize. And even going back to 2015 when this all happened, because like I hit the record button on a camera. And so it's pretty crazy.
It's super cool to see. And just again, like that concept of overnight success, right? Of multiple years of YouTube, then multiple years of kind of like building and learning a business. And again, I wish more people would learn more patience when it comes to all that stuff. But I'm going to quickly cycle through some real estate questions here, and then I've got a couple other for you. But what impact does the change in construction material costs have on which rentals you focus on, if any? Jeff, we're super boring, so I try and avoid hard renovations to begin with. So most of the projects where we're going to take on complicated renovations where construction materials really matter. Again, I assume we're talking about like lumber, drywall, things of that nature. It's going to be so beneficial that we're going to do it anyways. So it's probably just going to decrease the benefit for us. But a lot of our renovations are simply bathrooms, kitchens, flooring, and painting. And I'm sure that we've seen some increase in cost there, but I don't think that we've seen it scale the same way or scale in proportion to what's occurred with, say, just straight up lumber. So to the best of my knowledge, my kitchens aren't costing me twice as much. I'm pretty sure that that would be causing us real stress if it was. So Nicholas had a quick question. I bought off-market house that I could sell for 150 profit. I will have a tenant in the basement, bachelor this summer, and I don't know if I should sell or buy a Plex with profit. Yep, sounds like a good problem to have. I would just really figure out what you want in life. I would strongly encourage you to look for the multifamily and live in it and house hack and find a way to live for free. The bachelor apartment's probably cool and covers a lot of your expenses. The only thing cooler than that is something that would cover all your expenses. So I'd really encourage you to consider going that direction. And then I'll cover this one from Kenny. Do you think I will be able to do real estate when I'm older? I'm from Canada. I'm just worried about the prices. Yeah, Kenny, definitely one thing to be aware of is markets evolve and change. And so certainly if you're young now, like let's say it's going to be another 10 years before you're ready to enter the real estate market, will it look the exact same way it does today? No. But if that's disheartening, take heart in the fact that it didn't look the same way 10 years ago either, or 10 years before that. So the market's always evolving. So as long as you're entering the market with the intentions of like, I'm going to learn the rules, I'm going to play the rules, I'm going to make money, you'll be fine then. Again, you might have to approach the game slightly differently than how we do today, but I imagine a lot of the base principles will still be the same. So I would encourage you to continue to learn the fundamentals and the basic strategies. And, regardless of your timeline, when the time's right, then you'll have to learn the exact nuances of the individual tactics that work in that moment in time. But outside of that, I think you'll be good to go. So I wouldn't have that FOMO. People make a lot of bad decisions with FOMO. So whether we're talking about cryptocurrencies, real estate, stocks, life decisions, relationships, all those things, the moment you start experiencing FOMO, that's when often you're going to be thinking irrationally. And it's rarely good to be an irrational actor. It's almost always better to have others be irrational and you be rational. So yeah. But yeah, so I thought otherwise, or actually, there was a question in here for you, Peter, as well. Do you want to go into a bit of the background around the Hungarian Experiment?
Yeah, so growing up as a child and a teen, I don't want to get too crazy back, but I felt like I was always average in life. Like I had my, the other students in my class, my friends, they some were athletes and stuff, and I was always why is this guy good at this stuff? Yeah, I put in all this effort and I'm not getting the same results. And then I really started studying people's lives, and I'd go to their houses and see how they lived and what their parents fed them for food. And with time, I just started heavily questioning and analyzing the world and nature versus nurture and all that kind of stuff. And then the name just kind of came to me in my 20s when I was really starting to consider and ponder things. But I remember throughout school and stuff, I was just a big follower. I'd follow my friends, I'd follow the cool kids, and I was part of that crowd, but I never tried to stand out too much. But I always tried to figure out how can I not be average? What kind of effort and things do I have to do? But through all this, I realized that after I went to college, I took a course to become a resource drilling and blasting technician, and I worked up in an underground gold mine in Red Lake, Ontario. It's 2 or 3 hours north of Kenora, if you happen to know where Kenora is, up near Manitoba and Winnipeg.
It's where all the cheap real estate in Ontario as far as mansions are. Yeah, I'm well aware. I wish that other people would agree to just live there with me, but right now that's the real issue. But keep going.
But yeah, so I was working in this mine, and I was starting to get on the path to be making 6 figures a year, and I was just getting bored with it. And I was listening to Joe Rogan Experience podcast, and this was back in 2011, 2012. So he was just starting it. It was in its first 100 episodes. And I was listening to it, and he had Robert Greene on the podcast, and Robert Green's written a lot of books on like human nature, and one of my favorite books is Mastery. I've read that book like 3 or 4 times now, and it's all about how these fascinating, amazing people in life, Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, Leonardo da Vinci, the Wright brothers, like all these people, there's nothing genius or special about them. They're just average people like you or I, but the only thing that separates them apart is they just never gave up on their passions in life. They didn't listen to what society told them. They didn't listen to what their family or friends told them, and they heavily experimented with their passions in life until they synergized together and became their life task or their life purpose, which led them to live on throughout history. And I was like, holy shit, like this is what I want to do. Like, I want to be known forever. Like, that sounds fucking awesome. Like, how awesome would it be to be like written in books and centuries later after your death, like you're affecting society. And after I read that book, I realized like I was not following my passions in life. I went to school to just make money. I was following people all throughout high school, like my friends. And I was like, man, like, what am I actually passionate about in life? Like, I have no idea. I knew I was passionate about like working out and physical exercise, but besides that, like, I had absolutely no idea. So I realized like I need to quit this fucking mind thing. I need to get out of here, and I need to go find out what my passions are like, what my passions are in life, because like, what I was reading about in other books and studying people in the world is that like your 20s are so critical. Like your 20s are your discovery phase. Your 30s are your build phase. Your 40s is where you like really do shit in life. And like, of course, like 50s and on from there. So I was like, I got to go just experiment and figure shit out. And I'm also, my mom came to Canada when she was pregnant with me. I'm Hungarian. So that was another factor for me. Whereas like my mom actually married my stepdad when I was like 3 or 4 years old and had my sister. So I saw this very like a huge dichotomy in life, because my mom like came fresh from Hungary. She's like 20 years old. So I had a very traditional background on that side. And then my dad was like a 3rd generation Polak. So he had been here after several generations in this North American lifestyle. So in my household, there was this huge rift. And then I'd go to school and see all these people there, and I'd be like, how, like, why are they better than me? Like, what kind of aspects do I need to absorb in my life? And after I quit the mine there, I was watching a lot of like fitness people on YouTube, and I was like, there's something unique about this, but I want to kind of do it a different way. And the name Hungarian Experiment just kind of came to me one day. I know that was a crazy long explanation. I don't know how else to kind of condense it down for an audience that doesn't really know much about me, but yeah, that's like how I kind of came up with that name. It was just one day I was like considering doing this YouTube channel, like probably like a year before I did it, and this name just kind of came to me, and I'm like, yo, that's it. Like, there's something unique about that. Like, I was just like, there's something cool about this, and I wrote it down in a book with a whole bunch of other things like notes and quotes and things that I would be like taking in at that time. And I was like, there's something about this, like this word, this name here. And yeah, like a year later, I created my YouTube channel. I spent about 8 months just studying and researching like what other YouTubers are doing out there, how they're connecting with their audience and the type of content they're making. And I was like, all right, Hungarian Experiment it is. Like, this is who I am. Like, I'm passionate about experimenting and learning and trying to truly figure things out. And then once I figure it out, it's like, now I know that thing, like, give me the next thing. And I tried to like go all in on it. So that's a lot of what my YouTube channel is like me doing these various experiments and like extensively testing them out on myself and my body and my mind. Like, I did a lot of like fitness stuff, but like one thing that actually like got me pulled down from YouTube almost, like I was one strike away getting from deleted, is like for a year and a half, like I extensively experimented with magical mushrooms. And I was like doing them like when I was living with Matt as well too. And like Matt actually trip setted for me on a couple of the live streams that I shot. Like I did like a 7 gram and a 10 gram live stream where I just streamed myself like, here, I'm like, here guys, I'm gonna eat this 7 grams, and then I eat it and I like take you guys through the full experience. So yeah, I'm just like this guy who really loves testing things out on himself and sharing it with the world.
Have you ever watched one of those, like completely rewatched one of those sober?
Not recently, like back when,
But like you
a
did
few days after.
yeah,
I was like,
completely sober. What was that experience like?
it was crazy because like what I find is that, you know, like under certain trips, like you find you don't remember a lot, and you think like times like go like either like really long or really short, but you feel things, and you feel like crazy shit's happening to you, so you think you're doing crazy stuff, but for the most part I was just like, man, I'm just sitting there for most of the time, and sometimes like, oh my god. But yeah, it's fascinating to see, like, watch yourself like tripping out like hard on a substance that like grows out of the ground, and being able to like study yourself while under that influence. Like I couldn't watch it for the first few days after, but like I usually, like what I find, like researching like Joe Rogan and a lot of comedians, they'll listen to themselves. So I usually watch my videos back after or live streams. Like I probably won't watch this one because I've watched so many of myself now that it's just, I understand who I am. But in the past, I used to like watch myself a lot and study after I've made videos or live streams, like how I can do it better, how I can try to be more myself, or if I want to, you know, take it in a certain direction. So yeah, I have watched those like extensively, like 3 or 4 days later, to really like see like what the heck, like that experience I had, and like seeing yourself having that experience is weird.
Two very different things, I imagine.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. We got Janelle watching in the comments.
What's up, Janelle?
Yeah, it like, I imagine, like I have obviously trip sat for you, and I've done it for someone else before too. And like I've often thought about too, like I've got these crazy experiences, but oftentimes like it's literally me lying down on the ground with oftentimes a towel or a t-shirt wrapped around my eyes, just lying extremely still. And I'm having a wild time. It's interesting because yeah, I imagine it'd be so boring. But,
yeah, to watch. It's definitely something, and I know you and I have discussed this, but since we're talking about it out loud and there's people watching, is that I truly believe there are like therapeutic and mentally and physically optimizing aspects that can come from magical mushrooms. And I think it's ridiculous that it doesn't have more, you know, like it's more open. Like I know it's getting better in society, but like it's something that I think can truly change the world. I've currently taken like a year off from it just because I did it for 1.5 years. And then I was like, I want to see what a whole year without it is like. And I'm excited to actually come back into it over the next month here and experiment and kind of see, especially like how different I feel like my life was last year compared to this year. And I'm interested to start experimenting. I want to like start slow and really microdose and take it through it. And this time not to be like recording myself and documenting the experience. Like it's going to be truly for me this time around. So, but I truly believe there's some serious mental and physical optimizing and therapeutic features about these. Like I like did physical activity and tried to like exercise and work out and go for like jogs and runs under like, I can't remember if it was like 3 grams or like more like 5 grams, but like under a decent sized dose. And the mental things by pushing yourself through it, like pushing yourself through something limiting while you're in that experience too. Like there was something unique about that I think like it'd be fascinating to see like athletes experimenting with this type of stuff, but in lower doses. And even just for like the average person in regards to like mental and physical optimization is huge. So anything like that you think about, like with your experiences from it, like in regards to like mental health or like mental optimization? Like what are your days like after you have a trip?
I don't think that they're particularly productive. I don't think they're particularly not either, but I think the first few times I often felt burnt out afterwards. I think sometimes that was just like, and this could honestly even partially be in my head, but either just like literally overstimulated, or like my eyes were tired, like kind of like as if like I'd just been awake too long, or I'd stared at a bright light too much, right? Like that kind of like fatigue. So usually that doesn't make me super productive. And I found that the first couple times afterwards. But since then, I don't really notice much. But I think I also probably just mildly accustomed and maybe even mildly prep in different ways, or like, but yeah, there's obviously significant benefits there. I think what's great is it's gaining support, and for the Canadian culture, there's already like a very obvious model to latch onto with legalization with just weed, right? So the fact that that's already become normalized, so like there's a lot of people that I feel like 10 years ago would have really looked differently towards myself and even what we're doing here tonight, let's say.
Yeah.
And I still get the same shock from them when I talk about psychedelic drugs, but I honestly suspect, I hope that 10 years from now, it'll be very similar, where again, the vast majority, if not normalized, will be accepting. And I think that that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't see how big pharma can fuck it up in a big way. So fingers crossed it works out for everyone.
Yeah, we'll see. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I think it has to be like heavily like regulated and controlled differently than like weed, where you just don't walk into a store, you can order it online, even though I have got mushrooms online. But I think like in the beginning, if it had like doctors or like shamans really leading the trip who have had those experiences before, I think like, or even like doing it in groups of people, like mild doses to start first, right? And then like with time, get them to go off that, we'd see a shift in society, maybe.
Mm-hmm. I just see a comment here that, Matt, I wanted to personally thank you for bringing attention to the Sudbury market. Great appreciation bump. Well, it would be fun to take a you know, what's the word I want? To take credit for the Sudbury bull market run. I don't think that it would be appropriate to do so. I think that honestly, if you look at the trends, you'll see that every Ontario market and almost every Canadian market's trending in that direction. So I can't necessarily say that I'm responsible for it, though we sometimes do joke that I'm sure if we put a real concerted effort behind, we could probably pump up a small market. But again, that probably would have diminishing returns on one's reputation after you did it once or twice. So it's a magic trick better never used. I never get government crap shit weed. See, I don't know, like the stuff that I've got in, and I'd love to hear your thoughts here, Peter. The stuff I've got in government stores, I've never found to be bad. It's just too expensive. Like, that would be my only real issue with it. I don't believe that there's a particular quality issue. But again, I'm the guy that goes in and I'm like, what's your highest THC? I will have that, sir.
Well, like what's in regards to government, just where it's getting like regulated, you could buy it from a store? Is that what's considered
I
government?
assumed, or is there a specific government grown weed? I don't pay attention. I'm outside of their system.
Yeah, like I haven't heard of government weed before, but yeah, like I think right now everyone's, because there's so many stores popping up, everyone wants to have the best stuff to compete with everyone else. So,
but there's only a handful of companies that can sell weed still in this province, right? So isn't there just really a handful of brands still, or has it changed much? Again, I literally never use their stores.
Yeah, I don't know. Whenever I get like edibles online and stuff, it always seems like no matter where you get it from, it's the same. It's the same. It's the same stuff.
I believe that there's only a handful of companies right now that really have the ability to do that. But to me, I don't know, just the irony that I would have to wear a face mask or a face shield in an establishment where I've admitted, like, I'm just going to light something on fire and inhale it directly. Like, I'm probably okay with stuff coming in my lungs.
Yeah. Well, I still get my weed from some old dude who lives in my mom's old building. So
yeah, it's weird how the black market literally didn't have to adapt almost. We're like, it's the same price still. Like, they didn't have to cut their prices or anything, or at least like the price I pay is pretty much stayed the same. So he and Jack's asking about concentrates and stuff. I dabble with like THC distillate, but outside of that, not much. And I don't know, edibles just aren't my thing.
Yeah, I did some when I went away this weekend, and it was like, I don't know, like I feel like, so when we went down for Vegas, like I had a bunch, and I felt like it didn't affect me at all. And it's like these ones are like knocking me out. Where like the next day I feel like weed hung over.
I get them. Like
yes,
and that's completely unnecessary. So yeah, I've got no interest because if I eat like a full edible, I do get like that. Because I'm talking about those teddy bears. I don't know if that's what you ate, but yeah. Like I get a full hangover the next day if I was to consume a full one of those. I believe that's like 100 milligrams or.
Yeah, the 100. Like once, like, or even if I eat 100 of like a few different candies that add up to 100, it's like I'm like fucking falling asleep and stuff. I like, like earlier in the day than I normally do, and then like everything gets all like out of whack, and it's just like, whoa, that's not fun. Like that's not. I want to do shit when I'm stoned. Not
yeah. I enjoy being productive still. Being just a complete waste is not very desirable. I'll do a real question here. I have 600K in equity available. Prices in Kitchener-Waterloo are kind of nutty these days. Home prices in Florida are super cheap in comparison. There's technically not a real question there, but I think I can read between the lines into what you're insinuating. So, should you buy in Florida? I mean, Ron DeSantis seems pretty fucking amazing. So I'm going to say, buy in Florida. Not because of the investment, but just as a vote of confidence in that dude, because he is crushing it on the leadership front. But as far as like real estate investing goes, what are you trying to accomplish as an investor, right? And that's what we always need to start with is what is your why? What's your SMART goal? What's going to allow you to actually accomplish this? So again, $600,000 is fantastic in regards to equity. But again, as far as what market to invest it in, you shouldn't be looking at necessarily just entry price, but really what type of returns you can garner. Those were some good O's there, Peter, or circles. And then from that, figure out what sort of market you should be investing in, right? Based upon the strategy you want. So if you want to flip right now, I think Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge is a great market to flip real estate in. In fact, if you guys saw earlier today on my live stream, we were showing that Guelph is the only major city in Canada that has a lower delinquency rate than KW. So again, from a flipping standpoint, seems fantastic. From a cash flowing standpoint, it's going to be a challenge because prices are being aggressively bid up. So again, I don't think that we can paint with such a broad brush. One thing to look about if you are going to look into markets like Florida, what sort of vacancy rates, what's the employment rates, what are the perspectives overall, and then look at the history of the real estate market, right? And understand the U.S. and different pockets of the U.S. lend itself to more boom bust, the same way that Alberta here in Canada lends itself to more boom bust cycles as well. So just make sure that when you're looking at things, you're trying to get as close to apples as possible. Obviously, that's going to be impossible when we're comparing two different jurisdictions in two different countries, but just be careful when we're talking about cheap. Because again, what's affordability? What's minimum wage in Florida? What's the median household there? What's the median income? What's it look like here in Canada? And again, look at those employment rates, vacancy rates, and all those other aspects. And then replacement cost as well, right? You don't have to build a house to the same degree, to the same standards, essentially in Florida or parts of the southern US as you do in Canada, where it's cold as fuck. There's no place here where you're not going to end up building it to a different degree. A lot of their stuff's going to be built on slabs. It could be pole build. It could be built in a lot of different ways where like literally everything in Canada is likely going to have a foundation to it. There is slab stuff, but a lot rarer. And even that stuff, often it could be a slab on brick. So again, you'll see a lot more brick and stuff here. So just make sure you're trying to compare apples to apples, but figure out first whether you're investing or choosing for pleasure. And if for pleasure, again, I think Florida seems cooler and cooler by the day. It seems less and less the crazy place. 4 grams for 100 live resin in Alberta. Appreciate the market update. Does the bank consider debt to income ratio for a HELOC? I guess it depends on what we're talking about here. Like, can your HELOC come into play when looking at debt servicing ratios? Yes, it absolutely can come into play. Now, how your bank qualifies that, I think, or like actually calculates it, could vary. So again, understand a lot of these rules are very nuanced, and each individual bank may have slight tweaks on how they approach things. And I'm by no means a bank expert. In fact, I regularly remind you guys that the banks aren't designed to be our friends. So they only tolerate us as real estate investors. We're like a something they have to put up with, but they're not designed to help us thrive. So that's where you need to get comfortable using private lenders, credit unions, really get comfortable finding capital wherever necessary and acquiring it at a cost that makes it work for your overall business model. No. Can't help you out there, Johnny. I just don't know enough about air. So as far as what like an 8-plex there should go for. But understand I'm a big fan of the 1% rule. So I might start there and then look for comps as well. Those would be the 2 factors that would impact likely the value I'd be willing to pay on a multifamily. Any cool content you're consuming these days, Peter, that, again, ideally content I'm not aware of, but if there's no new content I'm not aware of, feel free to rehash stuff that maybe I am.
So like if people are following me along on Instagram, usually I would document this for my YouTube channel, but I just decided to quit last year. I'm reading 100 books this year. So I've been digesting a shitload of content. A lot of books that you've suggested to me, like Jim Collins, Good to Great, Built to Last. Like I've read like 3 or 4 Jim Collins. Like I'm reading a lot of business books right now because I really want to get good at that stuff. I actually started up Switch today. I'm not sure if you've heard Switch, but it's like how to change up things when things are hard to change.
Yeah. I'm pretty
sure
that's
the first chapter is awesome, and it like really works with like a concept that I'm working on for myself, like in regards to writing and stuff. And so that I just started today, but I just finished Life 3.0. We talked about this one about like AI.
Oh yeah, that's stuff. One I don't know.
Cole, actually, he's on our team. We brought him on the last couple months here. Shout out to Cole if you're watching. What's up, buddy? But he's been crushing it for the team. And he read Life 3.0, and when he was talking about it with me, I was like, yeah, I gotta read that. This, like, I still need so many more books to read for this year, so I'm doing well for myself. Like I'm 3 books ahead, I think, where I should be for this year already. But
that's key. That's how I want to pace it too. Yeah.
I'm like, just gotta stay ahead. Like March so far, like I have to read 8.3 books a month to hit my goal, right? So like January I read 10 or 11. February I read like 9 because it's like 28 days. And March here, just because like of everything we've been doing with the team right now, I'm like, I'm gonna hit hopefully 8 if I finish Switch and finish reading The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross. So that's another one I'm reading. Like that's why I kind of like got in the whole psychedelic state there, because like I've been out of it for a year. Now that I'm gonna consider taking them again soon, I would like I should read some more content on this. But Life 3.0 is fascinating. It's all about the concept that like AI is inevitable. And it's like looking at it from every course of what kind of AI could take over. And it's a very interesting book about like, do we kind of like, again, one or two of these like ways that it could go. It's like, they just take us over, right? And we just lose basically. or they treat us like zoo animals and keep like some of us around, or we find like mutual benefits with them because we can like instill our values into it. And another direction he kind of took is like if we realize like the descendants journey, where we kind of like pass off the lineage to them because we realize we're kind of like, it's like the whole parent to child, like you realize this thing you've created is smarter than you and better than you, so you kind of like let it take you over. And it was just a fascinating look at where
would that be similar to like assimilating with it, or is that different?
Well, it's like, again, I'd say,
because like there's kind of like the Elon Musk Neuralink thing, right? Which is like, okay, like we need to computer before computer human.
So this guy who wrote this book actually, like, he mentioned at the end of the book that he reached out to Elon Musk, got in contact with him. Elon originally put up like $5,000 to help him make like a whole AI safety kind of like awareness. And this guy hosted like a conference about it. And Elon's like, you know what? I think we should actually do like 10 million or something like this. And this was right when they're about to like take a big risk on launching one of the rockets. And that was the one where like they didn't even want to make a huge announcement about this and the money, so that it didn't distract from like the SpaceX programs. But yeah, I didn't like realize how important, but you know what I mean? Like how much legitimacy this guy kind of had in the world till like right till the end of the book. I thought he was just kind of theorizing a lot of concepts until you realize he's hosted like big AI like conferences and what the future is potentially leading to. And even Elon Musk like invested $10 million to ensure or like help us get to proper AI installation into the world. Because it's like, again, the fact that it's going to be inevitable, but we all as humans need to be like working together to instill the right values into these programs and systems that we're creating right now. Yeah, it was fascinating. It was a good listen. Yeah, I like audiobooked it, but
yeah, I was reading, I think, something the other day about because Elon Musk, he's done a bunch of stuff there in that space, right? And I think he had one AI program that was trained to go read, and it read like 40 gigs of data. Whoa. And anyways, it learned to write so successfully in a human voice that they decided to shut it down, essentially, is what it was saying. It was really interesting. But also like one of those things where like, again, it's a good thing we have like guys like Elon Musk to go up against AI, because I mean, there's no world leader I'd want to go up against AI. It's definitely an Elon Musk sort who I'd cast my ballot for.
Yeah, for sure. Elon Musk all the way.
Can you imagine how scary that would be? I'm just thinking like Trudeau or Biden in a debate with AI.
I don't even want to think about that situation. But I got some awesome pictures here to show people. So
sure, let's do that.
This is throwback. This is just off my like Facebook here, because I didn't have a chance to really dive into the hard drives before I knew I was coming on the show, guys. So again, we're going way back to kind of like the first few months or so. I think I met Matt here. So this is one of the London on Fire events out at Victoria Park. So this is when you were vlogging the day and like, you know, going through it. There's beardless Matt back in, 2017 when I was taking pictures for London on Fire. Oop, no, that's not the one I want to do. I want to go like this. So yeah, here's just like another shot of that event. So small crowd, but like, again, you guys were just like building it. And now we have like in the house, we have like a whole with all like 50 to 100 people who are at the, the way those events started getting. Sorry, I gotta go by tabs here. So this is
Social Lab days.
Yeah, we had started up Social Lab and we just found out we got in like the paper or got on CBC or something. So we're all like jacked up at Western. We were shooting some videos there. We thought it would be good to make videos there, and yeah, that we got the message or the call or something. Here's when we actually, like, the day we went to CBC.
Got interviewed on CBC radio.
So here's us doing that like jump shot. I want to get this framed one day.
That's cool.
sick.
Yeah,
that'll be sick. So this is fast forward.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, 2019. So this is when we would have just like moved into the house. Yeah, we had just like moved into the house at the mansion, and there's Adam Martin, beardless.
He looks
Adam Martin.
so fucking different.
I know, eh? And we got Emma Pace of Base. Shout out to Emma Pace, the Toronto local expert on the channel. And this is when I think like had just touched down in Miami for the 10X Growth Conference. Yeah. And I think I have like, another picture from that day. So there's Jeff. I think Jeff was in the front seat, or is he in the back there? No. But I couldn't get a picture with him. But yeah, here's all of us. Yeah, look at Adam. And then, fast forwarding a little bit more here now. I think this is at like an Onria event. Just a random one that was on my Facebook. And then the first time we met Corey McKinnon, I'm not sure if it was the first time you met him.
Yep. It was.
That was the first time. So yeah, that was the first time we met Corey McKinnon, shot a bunch of videos. So yeah, just some throwback photos there that I found on my Facebook. Thought I'd share with everyone.
Yeah, it's cool. Awesome, guys. Well, we're kind of coming up on an hour here, so I'm just going to hit up a few more random questions here, and then I thought I might do a random Twitter share as well and just chat about Twitter a little bit. But actually, we made it to an hour pretty fast. That was easy, so appreciate that. And yeah, what we got here. Action or reading, what would you lean towards? Because I hate to read. At the end of the day, like, reading to me is just a way of consuming information, and you're going to have to become good at consuming information if you really want to evolve or level up as a person, in my opinion. At the same time, you need to take action. So like, information without action is useless. It's that combination of the two that really is going to calcify into experience and wisdom if you continue just down that iterative path. So what I'd really encourage you to do is like find a way to consume information and to like be able to retain it effectively. If you hate the idea of physically reading, I wouldn't be surprised if things like podcasts or audiobooks might be a better fit. If that's not good, then hopefully things like my YouTube channel or other YouTube channels would be better for you, or maybe find a way to become a hands-on apprentice towards whatever you're trying to learn. But I do think it is important that you're continuously leveling up your knowledge and skill set. Like until you've literally decided you're done, right? Like until you've decided to give up in whatever that pursuit is, you almost always have to be learning more, right? Again, whether you're like a professional sports player, a musician, or whatever, I think the moment you decide that you're done improving, you're done learning, like you're done for.
I agree 100%. Like what I try to preach on my YouTube channel is like, again, in your 20s, like you need to develop as much skills and build as much knowledge as you possibly can. As Matt kind of said there, whatever route helps you develop the knowledge the best, I think it's going to change over the course of your life. So you're going to have to adapt and change. So one of the things that I feel like I kind of realized for myself is like, okay, you need to develop as much skills and build as much knowledge as possible. And then you need to develop the skill to develop skills. So the more you develop that faster and get better at that stuff, the more you can develop, and it's easier. Same with like building knowledge. The more like you can like teach yourself the skill to reading and to listening and absorbing books and absorbing podcasts, like you'll get better at that. And as you continually go, you're going to keep getting better. But you have to, I think, action or reading, it's like you got to do both, and you got to figure out what your passions are in life and what you actually care about, and then like go all in on it.
100%. And I see someone threw in here like Bill Gates never took a day off in his 20s. Yeah, and again, like that definition of grind can look different for people as well. So I don't want to imply that everyone has to follow the same formulaic path to success. Like your version of grind could be grind, like that almost came out very wrong. Grinding on maybe building a family or building relationships or starting a charity or whatever that may be. But I think that even in whatever endeavor that is, you still need to constantly be focused on improving the skill set and the craft, right? So becoming a better parent, becoming more effective, becoming a better teacher, becoming whatever you've kind of dedicated yourself to being. Join council, guys. That's awesome, Ian. Congrats. Looking forward to having you in council. And I know it is very transformational for a lot of people. So I hope you get a lot of value from it, and looking forward to getting to mentor you. And this is a strange question, so I'm going to answer it. Hey, Matt, would you rather become a billionaire and live till you're 65 years old, or would you rather live till you're 100 and die middle class? So one, I think there's a lot of ways that I could facetiously interpret this, but I'm going to get those out of the way and then get into a more serious response to it. So like, one, really depends on when you ask me this question. So like, you know, I'm 36 right now, so you're hitting me about halfway through. If I got to become a billionaire today, I could probably throw that shit around pretty good. But if there's even a modem of time in between when I got that money and when I made this commitment, it becomes less and less valuable because of inflation and just the crazy world we live in. So if I couldn't take that $1 billion in cash and put it into like some sort of asset class really fast, I'd be very scared to hold it. But to what your actual question is, and then the other option was, or would you rather live to 100 and die middle class? The one thing I'll say is, like, what's your quality of life? And this is something I constantly think about. So if you were to ask me, and I thought about this a lot, and I don't know which way I'd go, and I think I'm a bit of a bitch and I'd cop out. I think I need to be mentally and physically here. Like, I've often thought, like, which would I rather lose, my mind or my body first? I suppose if you lost your mind and you lost it for good, it's something you could be unaware of, and I guess there's a certain peace in that. But the idea of like losing my mind feels like I'm losing myself. So the one thing I'll say is, like, 100 years, like, there's a lot of versions of living to 100. I'm only interested in living to 100 if I get to live it in a very like high energy state and like being able to do shit. Being like on a bed rest, that sort of stuff, not very, or in a long-term care facility or things like that for an extended period of time, not something that I'm going to be naturally drawn to. So again, those were just kind of the caveats there. I think your bigger question is like, you know, how much is a year of your life worth? And that's really difficult to interpret. And money's just one way of measuring things. There's a price for everything. So I've no doubt that there's a price where I'd be willing to commit to a shorter lifespan to get a certain result. However, it's difficult just on the surface to, I think, really want to commit to that. So I would choose the middle of your range, and I would choose to be a millionaire and live till 99. Because I think that that's how that scale would actually play out. $1 billion versus $1 million versus middle class. So, but yeah, I don't know. At the same time, maybe 65 is a good stint for me, right? What pre-existing health conditions do I got? So, but again, where's medical technology going? Can I download my brain? All those are big factors. But what would you answer, Peter?
Probably 100 and die middle class.
Yeah. Well, again, the interesting thing is die middle class. Is that just on your last day? You just have to give it all away and be middle class and then die on your last day? Was this like a riddle?
Yeah, it's like last year or two. I'll take that.
Right. And then Alex was asking, are you active on stocks as well, or is it mainly real estate? So I am not active in stocks whatsoever. I've got a handful of active businesses, in which case I do own the stock of those businesses, but that's usually not what people mean when they refer to stocks. So no, I don't trade in paper assets. I could make multiple videos on the subject, and I have, and I will definitely make more videos in the future as well on why I think it's riskier than a lot of people perceive to get into those paper assets. Again, depends upon how you're investing and the exact strategies you're using and what your risk tolerance and experience and capabilities are. But I really do get nervous when I see a lot of people moving into stock investing with very little experience. And that's coming from Matt, the CPA, right? So that's like a chartered accountant here that spent a lot of time, worked for a publicly traded company, put their financial, like assisted putting their financial statements together, assisted doing the management discussion analysis and doing all that stuff. So again, it's not a completely unintelligent opinion that I'm putting forward here. So for me, what I love about real estate is the direct control I have. What I love about the businesses I own is the direct control I have over those assets. What I hate about paper assets, like owning a small, insignificant amount of shares in a large company, is the lack of influence I have. So again, does it make sense in my mind for, the Elon Musks to be all in on Tesla? Yeah, totally makes sense to me. Does it make sense for me to want to be all in? Maybe I'll make an exception for Elon, but outside of that, no. For a lot of other businesses, I've got no insight, no control, no influence, and I'm not necessarily committed to the long-term vision of the business, right? There's a lot of businesses that are just more profit-oriented than mission-oriented, and there's nothing wrong with that. But again, that means that I'm probably not just going to blindly commit to them. So if I don't have a particular insight or feel like I've got true understanding of what's going on there, I'm going to be very cautious wanting to go into those asset classes. So again, super biased, but that's my opinion, and that's why I do not own a significant amount of stocks in publicly traded companies. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate everyone hanging out and appreciate you jumping on tonight, Peter, being the inaugural guest on Monday night, Matt McKeever, Marijuana Madness. So all future episodes, we'll make guests say that 3 times fast backwards, and we'll see how that plays out.
Guys, go check out the Problems or Profits podcast in the link down below. Let's see if we can get more than 100 downloads tonight. We're at 83. If like everyone here who's watching right now, 50 of you all went to go check it out, we could easily do that. If you all went and downloaded the first 3 and left us a review and 5 stars, we could hit it. I'll show you guys right now. Like we're at 5. Oh, I guess we have your screen up, but like we have 570 downloads right now in the first 5 days. And it would be really awesome if we can get this podcast on the new and noteworthy on Apple. So we could use your help, guys. Go check the link down below and support the podcast. We got Casey Wong's the first guest, Mike Rosehart, and Adam Martin. It's awesome, guys. And we got more coming every week. We've really put a lot into this. So go check it out.
Awesome. All right. Well, appreciate everyone hanging out with me on YouTube here, guys. We're going to wrap up now, and I'll see you guys next Monday night.